And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. You see those sirens in your feed. It's an emergency podcast. We thought that we might be nearing a conclusion to the end of the Kansas coaching search, and certainly enough, it happened on Friday as Dennis Dodd was able to report earlier in the morning, and then Kansas confirming, making it official, Lance Leipold coming from Buffalo to take over the Jayhawks football program. If you go back and listen to the Mailbag podcast, very prescient, very spot on takes and some great questions from the big old bag of mail. But at that point, we narrowed it down to Jeff Monken and Lance Leipold. Tom, I believe you offered this line, and I think that I might have, listen, we just recorded a podcast like just hours ago, like in the wee hours of the morning after the first round of the NFL draft. I might have borrowed your take for CBS Sports HQ when the breaking news came on. But with Jeff Monken and Lance Leipold, they had no bad options, right? Like, wasn't that sort of our feeling? It's like, man, if Kansas has made it to this point, then you're going to like the hire no matter what happens. Now that it is Leipold, what is the next step? And how about, like, what are you looking for to see, what his moves might be and what that might do to set your expectations for the Kansas Jayhawks under Lance Leipold?
First of all, how incredible is it? I mean, is it bigger news for Kansas's football program that they hired Lance Leipold, or that they've now had two emergency podcasts, one for when they fired their last coach and now one for when they're hiring their new coach? Because I feel like if Kansas is doing this at a normal time of year, like in December, we're probably not doing an emergency podcast for Kansas hiring a football coach. But, here in late April, obviously would. As far as the hire, you're right. Like we said the other day during the mailbag, I thought that Kansas, all things considered, with when they had to move on from Miles and when they're conducting a coaching search with, both national signing days being over, spring practice going on and finishing at a lot of schools already, to be in the midst of a coaching search at that time, you usually don't find yourself in a position where there's going to be a lot of really good candidates for your job, let alone two. And I would even say with Skip Holtz, who was one of the four people that was named as a possibility for the job, I would say that's three solid candidates. And Mike Elko, I think, could be a really good head coach one day. He was another person that was listed as a finalist. But if I'm Mike Elko, I don't think Kansas is where I wanted to really start my head coaching career. I think Kansas needed somebody with experience, because it's not, it's Kansas. And I think that going down to Leipold and Jeff Monken, they had two excellent options. And obviously, I've spent a lot of time on this podcast and writing on CBSSports.com over the years that Kansas, to me, is the perfect program for, if a Power 5 program is going to run the option, Kansas is like the perfect test case for doing it. It's the perfect example of a program that should consider it. So I was personally rooting for Jeff Monken. That said, I think that if it wasn't Monken, Leipold's probably the best hire they could have made.
Go ahead.
Because if you look at Lance Leipold's history, first of all, he did coach at Nebraska under Frank Solich, so he's familiar with the area. But, this is a guy who went to Wisconsin-Whitewater, the D3 level, built an absolute juggernaut, won, title after title. I think in his 8 or 9 seasons there, he lost 3 conference games the entire time.
Single digit overall losses. Yeah. And it's 6 national championships with 1 national runner up. Made it to the national title game 7 times in 9 years, 109 wins, single digit losses, 3 conference losses, just like you say. Juggernaut does not even start to describe what this guy was able to do at Wisconsin-Whitewater. And I didn't know this until I started digging around to get ready for HQ. So I don't know my geography, forgive me, but Wisconsin-Whitewater, one of the things he had to do was go into Chicago and go find guys that could work for him, that, big area, lots going on, to be able to identify someone who is going to be excited to come play D3 football at Wisconsin-Whitewater, and then B, to get them motivated and help develop them into a national championship winning player. I mean, ridiculous what he did there.
Yeah, there are 2 reasons I know Wisconsin-Whitewater. One is that in 7th or 8th grade, we took a field trip there for some reason. I can't remember what it was, but it was a field trip for something. My class went there. We were there for the day, drove back, which going from the suburbs of Chicago to Wisconsin-Whitewater was quite a trip. And then the other one is because Lance Leipold dominated at Wisconsin-Whitewater. Because you mentioned, for 6 seasons, he had 5 15-0 seasons in a row with like a 7-3, like a disastrous 7-3 season mixed in 2012. And he was somebody that had kind of been floated as a coach that people should consider for, like group of 5 teams should consider. And nobody is, kind of like the way the option is at Power 5. And he kept getting passed up and passed up. But I don't know if it was just passed up as much as there might have been interest, but he wasn't as interested in the programs that were coming for him. And I think he's talked about it. I've read about it and I've seen like the game day segment on it. Like one of the reasons that Buffalo job was attractive to him was because of all the negative perceptions about it. Like there wasn't much of a history as far as the program's concerned. Like they had some good years under Turner Gill, but for the most part as a FBS program, it's not like Buffalo has a long history. But it's like, it's really difficult to recruit there. There's like everybody always had like a million reasons why you shouldn't take the job. They didn't have the facilities. They didn't, they weren't really committed to football all that much. And that was appealing to him because he looked at it as a blank slate and you could go and really build the football program. And that appealed to him. He went to Buffalo. It's hard to recruit there, but he's recruited well enough. He's helped. He's led a charge to build up the facilities to kind of get more modern and bring Buffalo into more of a position where it could compete. And we've seen the results. Like he got there 5-7 his first year, 2-10 the next year, and then 6-6. So bowl qualified, but being Buffalo in the MAC wasn't selected for a bowl. And then 10-4, 8-5, 6-1, 3 straight bowl trips for Buffalo. He's built the program. Jarrett Patterson is a name that most college football fans understand. He was who the Buffalo offense was built around. He's one of the best running backs in the country. He will probably be selected in the NFL draft here in the coming days. And I think that now you look at Kansas, and in a lot of ways, Kansas is the Buffalo of the Power 5. If you look across Power 5 conferences, I think there's a very good argument to make that Kansas is the blankest slate of all, because there are moments in Kansas football history, but there's not really a history of success or anything of that nature. This is as blank slate as it gets. So he looks at Kansas and says, this is a place where I can come in and I could build the program like I did at Buffalo and like I helped do at Wisconsin-Whitewater. And while I don't think he's going to have the kind of success, obviously, that he had Wisconsin-Whitewater, I do think that if you are Kansas and there's just really been no sustained success, having a guy who has had sustained success at one place at another level and was on his path to sustained success at Buffalo, a job that is very difficult to win at, this is a hire that just makes a lot of sense. And I also think that he brings a style, while it's not the triple option, if you look at those Buffalo offenses, they're very run heavy. And I think that it's kind of like a counter to what most of the Big 12 does. So in that sense, there is a bit of contrarian at play as far as the style of what you're doing being a little bit different that I think will help a little bit, but it's not, again, it's not the same thing as running an option. So I think this is a great hire for Kansas. I don't think it's going to pay immediate dividends. Like if you're a Kansas fan, especially not even like, even if this hire had happened in late December, early January, I don't think Lance Leipold showing up at Kansas and you're going to a bowl game next year. I don't think you're going to a bowl game in year 2. But I think that as year 3 comes, you're going to start seeing significant steps forward and then into year 4 and year 5. And I think that's the one thing. And I hope that, new AD and a new coach, and Bill Self's got that lifetime deal, so you don't really have to worry about basketball anytime soon. But I just think that there has to be patience. You have to give this time. And unlike the other coaches, whether it was, Beatty, who maybe you could have been more patient with and things would have started turning around, or like seeing Les Miles as a quick fix, although I think everybody else in the world kind of knew that train had left the station long ago. This is a guy who's proven he could do it. So you have to give him the time and you have to be patient. And frankly, it shouldn't be that difficult for Kansas football fans to be patient. They've never had anything to, they've been waiting for a long time. They can wait a few more years for it to happen. And I think that if they give him time, I have this high level of confidence that Lance Leipold can make this a competent football program, a team that is competing for bowl games year in and year out. And then maybe once in a while, when things cycle at the right time, you're looking at a team that can win 8 or 9 games in a season. And I think if you're Kansas and you're being realistic with yourself as a Kansas football fan, how could you not want that?
The best thing possible for Kansas football is for me to open a Big 12 spring gleaning or a Big 12 win totals with this line. Lance Leipold getting ready for his 8th season in Lawrence with the Jayhawks. That's what you want. You want to know that Lance Leipold has done it, that he's built it up. To your point about the attraction of Buffalo, he brought assistants with him from Wisconsin-Whitewater to Buffalo. He brought staffers with him. I would be looking to see if some of those same assistant coaches are going to also be joining him at Kansas. And I would not be surprised if some of his same support staff, because remember, like, this is like, when I think about Lance Leipold, I have no schematic ties to him. My belief in him is organizational. It is like very, leadership. It is very understanding what he needs for his football teams to be successful, and what has been on the field, the product. I mean, that's a competitive team. It is he will get Kansas to competency so quick. And that will be encouraging, because you're right. I got put on the spot on HQ. Didn't know this question was coming. Hadn't looked at the schedule. All right, Chip. Shout out to Brandon Baylor, always. But he's like, all right, Chip, got 30 seconds here. What's their record in 2021? I couldn't be out there being like, shoot, 1-11. The guy just got hired. So I talked my way around it, and I was like, okay, so they'll get one non-con, maybe two. They'll put a scare in a Big 12 team. Oh, heck, they'll win one Big 12 game, 3-9. And after I said it, I was like, okay, 3-9, that is that is a realistic expectation for Kansas football year one under Lance Leipold. I don't know exactly how you get to that 3-9, but I think that the stuff that makes him an attractive hire, the stuff that makes me enthusiastic about what he can do at Kansas, has way more to do with things that take time. He's going to need to do some talent acquisition. Thankfully, in the transfer portal era, maybe he can show off Jarrett Patterson and these Buffalo teams and be like, look, I can build something. I want you to be a part of getting in on the ground floor. We need a class to come together. We've got all this playing time. Come, let's go do it. He's got to do that. Then he's got to recruit for the future, because Kansas's talent, as we've detailed on here before, has been below the levels of MAC teams. It has been very, very bad at times. So that's going to be stuff that's going to be important. But if you give him patience, because of his proven track record success of understanding what fits for him, and we always talk about the fit for a recruit to a program. This is a coach fit situation where he knows what he needs, and we're not going to have, I would assume he's not going to have to be fighting against an athletic director who's telling him who to hire. He's not going to be fighting against boosters who are trying to get all up in his business. He's going to have a lot of space to be able to build this thing up the way that he wants to do. Otherwise, I don't think he would have taken this job. And that's, again, I come back to the greatest thing that for Kansas football would be for Lance Leipold to spend 8 seasons there, because whether he gets fired because your expectations have changed, or whether he leaves for another job, it means that the program has changed fundamentally for the better.
Yeah. And I think that one way to look at this too, if you're a Kansas fan, is your program has the best football coach in the most literal sense of the term, and it has probably had in a very long time. And that includes the guy that you just hired who had national titles in his past. I think that Lance Leipold is a very good football coach. I think that his staff are excellent football coaches. I think that they develop their players very well. They know what they're looking for. They have their blueprint. There is a culture that they instill. And I know culture is one of those intangible terms that nobody really can define clearly, but it exists. And Lance Leipold's teams have it. And he knows what it is. He knows how to build it. He knows what to look for, and he knows how to develop it and then turn that into a competent football team that you can be proud of. So I think that this is, again, I think it's a fantastic hire for Kansas. If I'm a Kansas Jayhawks football fan, and I know that some of you are out there, you're not, I know you're a basketball school, but I know there are football fans that exist in that world too. This is a good day to be a Kansas football fan, not like a dopamine rush that you got from hiring the big name Les Miles. This is legitimately a good day to be a Kansas football fan.
Better than beating Texas?
That's a short-lived dopamine rush.
Yeah.
I think that as far as just
this is improving your health.
Yeah, this is eating better and losing weight.
Yes.
Like there's downing that pint of ice cream enjoyment, and then there's, hey, I feel good every single day.
Vegetables.
Yes.
Yeah. There's crushing a pint of ice cream. That's beating Texas. Hiring Lance Leipold is eating your vegetables and drinking more water.
Yeah. And your back no longer hurts all of a sudden. It's just you physically, you feel wonderful.
Would love to be there soon. May come soon. He is Tom Fornelli. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Remember, we will be back on Monday with a full recap of the 2021 NFL draft. First round in the books as we sit here and record. We had our instant reaction from late night Thursday. That's available in the feed. Go and get it. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.